Very good evening and welcome to Primetime News here on TV1, where the people come first. For the Newsfirst team, you're joining me, David Paldano. Now, before we head into your stories in more detail, let's first take a look at your headlines this evening.
Newsfirst headlines. Main sponsor.
Valuable Finance, best finance company.
Government pillar Vimal say government will be deprived of its majority. Mahindananda says opposition MPs will cross over. Was the all-party convention a conspiracy? Opposition leader questions. Where is the finance minister? Parliamentary powers have been neglected. Dr. Harshidi Silva speaks in Parliament. Corruption over diesel imports amidst power crisis. Farmers warn of declining harvests due to fertilizer and pesticide shortage. Sri Lanka's Ranidu crushes India's youngest ever chess grandmaster.
Newsfirst headlines. Main sponsor.
Valuable Finance, best finance company.
Now, taking a look at one of your headline-making stories, 11 constituent parties of the government say the government will lose its majority in Parliament. They met with the Mahanayakas of the Malwatu and Askiri chapters of the Siam sect today. The representatives of these parties said that another group is preparing to defect from the government.
The representatives of 11 government constituent parties visited the sacred temple of the Tooth in Kandy today. The group included Bimal Weerawansa, Udaya Gammanpilla, Vasudeva Nanayakkara, Gevindu Kumaratunga, Tiran Alice and Professor Rohana Lakshman Piyadasa. They called on the Mahanayakas of the Malwatu chapter of the Siam sect today. They signed agreements with India, but the cabinet was informed about this only after that. Shouldn't the cabinet be informed about this before the agreement is signed? There is no point even if objection is raised in the cabinet because the agreement is already signed. People are in queues these days. They are disturbed over what's happening. They don't want to investigate this. They are taking advantage of the situation. The former president of Ukraine insisted he wouldn't give away his country's lands just because the International Monetary Fund makes some proposals. There were massive protests against it for several weeks at Maidan Square. Then Zelensky was appointed. He signed all the agreements. That is how they were planning to sign the agreement with NATO as well. All this was a result of pressure by the IMF. The IMF is now an arm that exercises the foreign policy of the US. That is why we are raising concerns. The group then met with the Anunayaka of the Malwatu chapter of the Siam sect, Most Venerable Dimul Kumre Vimaladammatero. There are 30 MPs from our party. When all our members resign, then there will be about 124 MPs in the government. When 12 more MPs resign, then the government will lose its majority. More than 12 MPs are upset because of the government's foolish decisions. When the government loses its majority, the ugly American will leave the country. He won't be there to take risks. The representatives also met with the chief prelate of the Asgiriya chapter of the Siam sect, Most Venerable Warakagoda Sri Jananatatero. The current conditions have become a massive challenge for people with a daily income. When there is a crisis like this, we don't know the intentions of parties that come forward to help the country. They can take advantage of this situation. We saw that the controversy surrounding the MCC agreement had been subdued, but it is resurfacing now. The manner in which some of those exchanged their views during yesterday's all-party convention tells volumes. The opposition is alleging that Minister of Finance Basit Rajapaksa is neglecting Parliament. The finance minister was not present in the House today when the proposal to increase the value-added tax was being debated in Parliament.
This is the VAT imposed on banks or the financial VAT. That was approved by the Committee on Public Finance and moved to the House. You cannot table anything here without following that procedure. At a time when there are serious issues in the country, the chairman of the Committee on Public Finance had informed the Central Bank Governor Ajit Niwad Cabral and the Monetary Board to be present. Yet they failed to turn up. At 10:45 a.m. a fax was sent notifying that they will not be present. Who is supreme here? In the Constitution under Article 148, it states that the Parliament is supreme when it comes to public finance. Therefore, there is no point in meeting outside, because the issues can only be resolved in Parliament. That is what is stated in the Constitution. The President has no power to formulate laws. It is only Parliament that can increase or reduce taxes in the country. The failure of Niwad Cabral and his group to be present at the Committee on Public Finance is a blatant disregard of parliamentary traditions. No one has a right to do that. If that is the case, why do we need a Parliament? The Finance Minister is not here. There has been no response to the questions. Under such circumstances, who should we tell these to? You can come up with various excuses, but there is no point. I am speaking here with a heavy heart today. It is sad to note that a state bank is on default. This needs to be looked into. They are following the buy-sell swap process. An arbitrary rule was imposed that a dollar cannot be sold for more than 200 rupees. The banks cannot purchase dollars above that rate for other means, but since they need dollars, some banks make the purchase for 200 rupees, but with a promise that a dollar will be sold back in 3 months for 180 rupees. If we purchase a dollar for 200 rupees, it will be sold for 201 or 202 rupees, and that is the agreement. However, the banks decided to sell them for 185 rupees. I told the House that this was a serious matter that could lead to the fall of the entire banking sector. It was disregarded. However, this is just the beginning of a disaster. You cannot source a dollar at 185 rupees when it has reached 285 rupees. A bank is losing 100 rupees per dollar. Whose money is this? Is it Niwad Cabral's money or the bank chairman's money? Or does it belong to the working people of this country? The money belongs to the people. Who will respond to the questions about this? Or from where are we to raise these questions? Who can we complain about this to? Can Parliament be insulted like this? We cannot solve this crisis by simply calling the President's office. It has no legal right. The all-party conference has no legal basis. That is a talking box. It is Parliament that is accountable. Issues must be solved in this House. How can the Parliament be insulted like this? We have cast aside our party differences. We may trade places, but the Constitution has the power. The Parliament has complete control over public finance, and if Parliament is being insulted like this, there will be no solution. The country will move towards an abyss. There is no rescue after that. The questions need answers.
ප්‍රශ්නට විසඳුමක් නැහැ රට අගාධයටමයි යන්නේ මේක බේරන්න බෑ කොන්දක් තියෙන්න ඕනේ ප්‍රශ්නකට උත්තරයක් දෙන්න ඕනේ ඔව් මෙතන ඇවිල්ලා පැය ගාණක් නිකන් නිකරුණ
The hours he spent idling is the time he can use to do something. Even at this time he is looking for answers for the issues. Therefore, rather than coming here and wasting time, he will come here at the appropriate time and respond to Parliament. He is a leader that loves the people.
අපි දන්නවා එතුමා ජනතාවට ආදරය කරන එකෙක් දැන් මුදල් ඇමතුමා පාර්ලිමේන්තුවට එම කාලය නාස්ති කරනවා
Although the finance minister visited Parliament later in the evening, he did not respond to questions or make any comment. Speaking in Parliament, opposition lawmaker Dr. Harshadi Silva questioned the central bank's assurance that the banking system is stable and that the operations of state banks are running smoothly. In a statement, the CBSL informed the public and other stakeholders that the banking system is stable, contrary to statements made otherwise. The bill to increase value-added taxes by 3% was passed in Parliament today.
The
VAT is being increased based on the International Monetary Fund's conditions, but they tell the country that they won't abide by these conditions and that there are no conditions. These are blatant lies. They have created a situation where there are queues for gas, fuel and milk powder. The people are in hunger. They have become a government that takes revenge on the entire 22 million citizens.
අනිවාර්යෙන් පලිගන්න ආණ්ඩුවක් බවට පත් වෙලා තියෙනවා. සනාතන සත්‍යය තමයි අපි
The truth is that we will have to abide by the conditions of the International Monetary Fund if we seek their support. When there is a $1 billion deficit between foreign currency earnings and spendings, and when the circulation of rupees is increasing, the exchange rate to the dollar will increase when they allow it to float. I believe that the exchange rate will pass 400 rupees by May or June if there is no cap on the rate.
පාවෙන විනිමය අනුපාත ක්‍රමයේ තියාගත්තොත් ඩොලර් එකගේ රුපියල් 400 ඉක්මවා යා. මේ රටේ ජනතාව ගෝටා go home කියලා කියනවා. ඒ වගේම ආර්ථික ඝාතක බැසිල් go home කියන තත්ත්වයට අවිල්ලා තියෙනවා. මේ ජනතාව උදේට පොලිමේ, දවල්ට පොලිමේ, රැට පොලිමේ කරවල ඉන්නගෙන වගේ වගක් නැහැ. ගෝටා go home කියලා ජනතාව කියනකොට සර්වපාක්ෂික සමුළුව කටවන ජනාධිපති කාර්යාලය. මේ වගේ ප්‍රශ්නයක් ආවම ඒ ප්‍රශ්නේ නිර්මාතෘවරයා, කර්තෘවරයා කවුද කියලා හොයාගන්න බෑ. මේක නම් පැහැදිලි. ජනාධිපති ගෝඨාභය රාජපක්ෂ, මුදල් ඇමති බසිල් රාජපක්ෂ සහ මහා බැංකුව අධිපති කබ්‍රාල් තමයි මේකේ කර්තෘලා. තීන්දුවක් අරන් තියෙනවා කියලා ආරංචි.
When we go begging for assistance, then we will have to abide by their conditions. I hear that the cabinet has made a decision to give away the Sea of Sri Lanka and the airspace to an Indian company without following any procurement process. I wish to ask whether these decisions are being made in exchange for a $1 billion or a $500 million loan from India.
ගන්න හෝ ඩොලර් මිලියන 500ක් ගන්න මේ රට බංකලොත් කරලා ඒවට දෙන තෑගිද කියලා මම අහන්න කැමතියි. මුදල් ඇමතිවරයා ඉල්ලනවා පාර්ලිමේන්තුවට.
We welcome the finance minister to parliament. I wish to question him on the country's financial situation and whether he will inform the parliament on the agreements that are to be signed with India.
දැනුවත් කරන්නේ නැද්ද කියලා.
මුදල් ඇමතිතුමා මේ රටේ මුදල් තත්ත්වය පිළිබඳවත් ඒ වගේම රජය විසින් ගන්න යන වැඩපිළිවෙල පිළිබඳවත් මේ සභාගත
නිරෝෂන් මන්තෝ ඔබතුමාගේ ප්‍රශ්නයට උත්තර දෙන්න.
කිරීම කරා. දැන් මේක පුරුද්දකට අරගෙන තියෙනවා මේ පාර්ලිමේන්තුව නොමගේ ප්‍රකාශ කරන්න.
එතුමා අන්තිමට පාර්ලිමේන්තුවේ කතා කරුවේ.
The last time he spoke in parliament was in December. 3 months have passed. We have heard that they have given away the Trincomalee harbour as well amidst this crisis.
ඉන්දියාව සමග ඇතිවෙච්ච එකකට තිරුකුණාමලේ වරාය දුන්නත් කියලා තාරාජ්ජි.
හරි බොහොම ස්තුතියි කරුකේල මහත්මයා.
ඔබතුමා මේ පාර්ලිමේන්තුවේ කාලය සෙල්ලමකට ගන්න එපා. මම ඔබතුමාගේ කාලයට බාධා කරේ නෑනේ. එතුමාට ඇයි උත්තරයක් දෙන්න බැරි? ඒකයි අපි
ඔබතුමාගේ රාජ්‍ය ඇමතුමා උත්තරේ දෙන්න. ඔබතුමා කලබල වෙන්න එපා ඒකට.
Yesterday's all-party convention organized by the government has drawn mixed responses from many parties.
This is a global economic crisis and not something that prevails only in our country. Dr. Harsha De Silva has also agreed to work with us in this regard.
ගරු කතානායක නියෝජක කතානායක මම විතරක් නෙමෙයි අපි කණ්ඩායමම ওই පැත්තේ අසුන් ගන්නවා තව ටික දවසකින් බලන්නකෝ තියෙන සතුට ඔයාලා බලාගෙන ඉන්න.
Look at the happiness they have. They expect that they can sit on this side. Those are only dreams. Let's see how many people will leave opposition leader Sajid Premadasa and join Ranil Wickremesinghe. I bet that this will happen in 2 weeks. Do you want me to reveal the names?
කැට තියලා කියන්න සුමාන දෙකයි. නන් ටික අහගන්න ඕනේද? නන් ටික අහගන්න ඕනේද? නන් ටික.
මම ඊටාත්ම සතුටු වෙනවා.
I am happy that Mahindanand Alutgamage has openly highlighted the ulterior motive of the all-party convention. Thank you for that. I wish to say that the people will make the right decision at the right time. They will give us the responsibility to steer the country out of this crisis.
තිබෙන අගාධයෙන් ගොඩේන ඒ ගමන ඉදිරියට ගෙන යන්නට අපිට ඒ වගකීම බාර දෙන්න.
රනිල් වික්‍රමසිංහ මහත්තයා පොඩ්ඩක් වැඩිපුර ස්කෝර් කරා කියලා ලකුණු ගත්ත කියන පොඩි අදහසක් එකට ආවා.
මෙතන මම හිතන්නේ වැඩියෙන්ම ලකුණු ගත්තේ
I feel it was President Gotabaya Rajapaksa who scored more points as he was humble enough to apologize to Ranil Wickremesinghe, who is only a parliamentarian, if he was offended by any of the comments expressed at the time.
ටීම තුල මම හිතන්නේ වැඩියෙන් ස්කෝර් කරලා තියෙන ජනාධිපති.
සර්වපාක්ෂික සමුළුවක් හැදවලා මුදල් අමාත්‍යවරයා හැසිරෙන්නේ මෙහෙමනම් කැබිනට් එකේදී පක්ෂ ආණ්ඩු පක්ෂ රැස්වීමේදී කොහොම හැසිරෙනවද ඔයාට ඕන ඩ්‍රාෆ්ට් එකද කියලා අහන්නේ.
ආවේගයකින් කතා කිරීමයි කතා කරන ස්වරූපය පොඩ්ඩක් වෙනස්.
It's his nature to speak aggressively. He was emotional over that. He even showed interest in bringing it before the meeting ended.
එන්නට කලින් ඒක ගෙන්න ගන්නට තරම් එතුමා ඒ අවස්ථාවේ කාර්යක්ෂම වුණා.
මේ සර්වපාක්ෂික සමුළුව තුල යටිපෙලක් තියෙනවා.
There is an ulterior motive behind this all-party convention. We are talking about what is visible. I regret that our former leader, who is well aware of democracy, had attended the meeting. He said he attended the meeting because of the meeting with Nimal Siripala De Silva. I feel he said that to hide the true friendship.
Going in for a short commercial break. Stay tuned for more of the very latest.
Valuable Finance, best finance company.
Welcome back to the news. Silent vigils are being held across the country amidst mounting issues that are yet to be resolved. Newsfirst's Nuage met with some of the protesters in Kohuwala today.
Burdened by the worst economic crisis Sri Lanka has faced, the constant blackouts and the never-ending queues, people of Sri Lanka have now taken it to the streets. Right now I'm here at the Kohuwala junction, and the residents of this area are coming here to this junction to stage a protest for the 24th consecutive day. Now these people are not affiliated to any political party. These are genuine citizens of Sri Lanka who have come out here to vent out their frustration. There is only one genuine thing that they're asking from the government, and that is to save their country. This is the 24th consecutive day that they have come out here holding these placards and lighting these candles with hopes that the government will finally listen to their one genuine simple need.
And we cannot continue like this, and we are not affiliated to any political party at all. We will not have a future, our children will not have a future, country will not have a future. Either do their job properly or step down and go and give somebody else a chance.
It's not fair what is happening. Just because certain people are in Colombo, there is no power cut for them. Why only for us? For the others? Are we less important?
A ship carrying 35,000 metric tons of octane 92 petrol imported under an Indian credit line reached Sri Lanka today. Long queues have been seen in several areas, although officials have assured that the problem would be over.
කිව්වෙනම් මාතට ඇවිල්ලා ස්ටේජ් එකේ නැගලා ලොකුට දිලිඳුකම නැති කරන්න දැක්කා. තාම දිලිඳුකමනේ මුන් මරන්න හදන්නේ ඔක්කොම මිනිස්සු. පෝලිං වල බලන්න කොච්චර පෝලිමක් තියෙනවද කියලා. පෝලිං නැතේ කියන්නේ කොහොමද?
Meanwhile, long queues for gas cylinders were seen in many parts of the country today as well.
Litrogas Lanka says it will require about a week to resolve the shortage in the market. The state-run company said 1 million cylinders will be released to the market in the next 10 days. People of Kottagala held a protest by obstructing the Hatton Nuarelia road at the Kottagala town. This was after a gas dealership store was closed in the area due to the shortage. Another protest was held by obstructing the entrance to a gas dealership store in Ambalangoda. They didn't allow a lorry carrying gas cylinders to move towards Gaul. Long queues were seen in the Badulla town to purchase gas cylinders today. A tense situation arose as gas cylinders were sold to people who were not from the area. One person had fainted in a queue for gas cylinders in Dehiwala today. He was moved to the hospital with the support of the police.
ආන්දර පළවෙනිදල පොලිමේ ඉන්නවා මෙතන ටෝකන් වල ටෝකන් 50ක් තමයි දීලා තියෙන්නේ 200කට වැඩියෙන් ඉන්නවා කට්ටිය
76යි මගේ වයස අද 5 වෙනි දවසේ මට කකුල ඉවසගෙන ඉන්න බෑ කොහොමද ගෑස් එක ඕනේ ඉඳලා අපි මෙතන ඇවිල්ලා ඉන්නේ හරි අපිට මොකක් හරි පාසුකම මේම ආණ්ඩුවට සර්වේ කරලා මම ඩෙන්ටිස් කෙනෙක්
ඒක මුන්ට කරන්න බෑ මුන් දාලා යන්න ඕනේ ඔක්කොම මිනිස්සුන්ගේ මරණ දවස් ගානේ තියාගෙන කණ්ඩත් නැහැ බොණ්ඩත් නැහැ මිනිස්සුන්ට.
Gum and the V4's volunteers stepped in to hand over bottles of chilled water to help those standing in queues today as well. The exercise took place for the third consecutive day in many areas of the Colombo, Gampaha and Kurunegala districts. Gamma the V4's volunteers collected back the bottles of water with the aim of avoiding pollution. Several donors also joined the distribution process today. Social media footage showed how police officers were involved in distributing bottles of water today.
Farmers say they will refrain from cultivating this season if they don't receive enough fertilizer.
Certain parties with vested interests are lining their pockets as people continue to suffer from various issues. Farmers in Kantale say they will refrain from cultivating crops if they don't receive enough fertilizer for the yellow cultivation season. During a meeting today, farmers from 47 associations raised concerns over the shortage of water and fuel.
මේ ගොවියෝ කිසි කෙනෙක් විරුද්ධ නැහැ. කාටවත් මේ වගාවට යන්න විරුද්ධ නැහැ. අපි ඔබතුමාට පුරුවන් රජයට බලපෑමක් කරන්න අක්කර තමයි දෙන්න. මොනවාද කරන්නේ අපිට? බල්ලෝගේ පඩි අරගෙන අපි හිඟන්න වෙලා ඉන්න මේ පේන කරගට අපේ. අපිට කවුරුත් දුන්නේ ඌවා. ඉතින් අම්මා අප්පා බුදුලේ දීලා අපි හිඟන්නෝගේ ණය වෙලා ඉන්නේ දැන්.
The meeting ended without a solution. A meeting with farmers in Gulin Bidanwaba also ended without an agreement. Farmers have raised concerns over the destruction of the Nuage at a meeting with the Anuradhapura district secretary yesterday.
We know that they are filling the Nuage with sand. Shan Senasinghe is carrying out a project there, and so is SM Chandrasena. The president's relatives are carrying out projects. This country won't be affected if they don't misuse their power.
The district secretary isn't responsible for this. I am not palming this off to the divisional secretary. But under the amendments to the land acquisition law, those in charge of managing the reserve have the power to stop any illegal activity.
The district secretary and all of us have discussed with the director general. The necessary steps have been taken over this.
We have made a request through the divisional secretary to survey this area and to give us an idea about these lands. I believe that mapping has been done, but the divisional secretary has asked for the nature of the land deeds. We will have to adopt a phased approach when filing cases and identifying those who have legal ownership over this land.
The Wawa is being destroyed gradually. Shouldn't the state officials bear responsibility for this more than politicians? Anyone will have to admit that. Therefore, it would be better if you can stop passing the buck.
Minister of Lands SM Chandrasena and State Minister Shehan Semasinghe denied any connection to the project.
News First with the people.
President Gotabaya Rajapaksa engaged in an inspection tour of the Sri Lanka Tourism Development Authority today.
The government expects 1.3 million tourist arrivals by the end of the year. The president said that all sectors of the tourism industry should be prepared to achieve this target. President Gotabaya Rajapaksa pointed out that obstacles should be removed and plans should be made to attract tourists through global promotional programs, while adding that Sri Lanka can be made the Asian destination of tourists. The president inspected the Sri Lanka Tourism Promotion Bureau, Institute of Tourism and Hotel Management and Convention Bureau, and commended the staff for their commitment to the promotion of the tourism industry.
Shamila Rajapaksa is the Director General of the Department of National Zoological Gardens. She says the conduct of some officials has led to the removal of some heads of institutions appointed by the President.
When I was attending a meeting with the Minister and the Ministry Secretary, the Minister said the media is supporting me only because my outer appearance is good.
මට සහයෝගය දෙන්නේ මගේ පොත්ත සුදු නිසා කියලා. ඉතින් හරිම කනගාටුවට කාරණයක්. මේ රටේ කාන්තාවක් හැටියට.
That is very much regrettable. As a woman, I am ashamed of all women who voted for him. This is a sign of disrespect. Many heads of institutions appointed by the President have been sent home because some people stir up trouble. The President is blamed the most for the country's problems. Therefore, I feel that these are politicians who are only concerned about their voter base.
රාජ්‍ය නිලධාරීන් සහ තමන්ගේ ඡන්ද පදනම ගැන විතරක් හිතන දේශපාලකීන්.
3 people died in a fire that broke out inside a house in Manikumbara, Kandy, early this morning.
4 people were inside the house when the fire broke out. Although the locals, Sri Lanka Police and the Kandy Fire Brigade worked tirelessly to douse the fire, they were only able to rescue a 65-year-old woman. The fire broke out at around 6:45 a.m. We tried to douse the fire, but we couldn't contain it. There were 3 people trapped inside, and we only managed to rescue the mother. Her father, daughter, and her partner died in the tragedy. The cause for the fire is yet to be ascertained. However, it is suspected that the incident may be the result of a personal dispute. The mother was on the ground and the house was locked. When we opened the door, I could feel intense heat on my face. I fell on the ground. After we took her to the ward, she screamed in pain. It was only then she told us what happened. The nurses asked me what happened. She told them that her daughter's partner came over to the house early morning. He had sneaked into the house from the kitchen and poured something on her at around 7 a.m. And then there was a fire. The Katukastara police is conducting investigations into the incident.
The South Korean government has taken measures to expand labour cooperation and ODA collaboration between the two countries and assist in restructuring Sri Lanka's economy.
Korean ambassador to Sri Lanka, Santosh Woonjing, told Sri Lanka's Foreign Affairs Minister, Professor G.L. Piris, that Korea has nearly doubled the manufacturing quota for Sri Lankan migrant employees. The ambassador said an increase in the quota for employment provided for Sri Lankans will replenish the much-needed foreign reserves in Sri Lanka and revive the economies of both countries. The Korean assistance for development projects in Sri Lanka has been raised by almost 35% this year. Sri Lanka's Foreign Affairs Minister highlighted that industries such as pharmaceuticals, ICT, digitalization and electronics have a lot of potential to attract foreign investors to Sri Lanka.
The 3rd edition of the US Navy to Navy staff talks between Sri Lanka Navy and the United States Navy concluded on a successful note.
Staff talks between the US and Sri Lankan navies began in 2016, aiming to establish opportunities for increased interoperability, cooperation, mutual understanding and partnerships in their efforts to overcome common maritime challenges. After a long break of 4 years since 2017, the two navies were able to open up avenues to reconnect through the 3rd edition. During the discussions, the progress of agenda points of the previous edition of staff talks were reviewed. On 23rd March, the joint maritime talks took place and it was attended by Sri Lanka Navy, Sri Lanka Air Force, US Pacific Fleet and US Pacific Air Forces. The discussions on the 2nd day mainly focused on exchange of rich ideas on expansion of maritime domain awareness or MDA, information sharing and subject matter expert exchange or SMEE.
The authorities of South Korea have made a decision to reinstate visa-free entry to the country for citizens of 25 states, including Russia, starting on the 1st of April. However, tourists are still not allowed to enter the country.
Russians will need only an electronic travel authorization known as KETA to travel to South Korea. But the date of the start of the reception of applications for the ETA has currently not been determined. Russian tourists are yet unable to travel to South Korea as entry is permitted only for certain categories of citizens for education, treatment or diplomatic purposes. All visitors will have to be in quarantine for 2 weeks in addition to presenting the results of 2 PCR tests taken before traveling and upon arrival.
Finally, on to some sports news. India's youngest ever Grandmaster D. Gukesh suffered a crushing defeat against Sri Lanka's Ranilul Dilshan Liyanage in the second round of the 19th Delhi International Open Chess Tournament.
It was a bad day for Gukesh when nothing went right. Playing a French defense, the Indian held a comfortable position, but converting it into a full point was not easy. As the pieces changed hands at regular intervals, Gukesh found the going tough as he kept looking for an elusive victory. Ranilul Liyanage maintained himself in the game, keeping the situation calm for a long period, and later started through a 7th ranked attack in the rook and minor piece endgame. Ranilul won the second round game 2-1 against the 15-year-old Gukesh, who became India's youngest ever Grandmaster. 18-year-old Ranilul Liyanage is also Sri Lanka's national chess champion, and he also entered the record books as the first Sri Lankan to compete in the FIDE Chess World Championship in 2021.
And that is a wrap of primetime news here on TV1. For more news, log on to our award-winning website, that is www.newsfirst.lk. For the Newsfirst team, I'm David Faldano, along with our sign interpreter for tonight, Tarka Gabriel. Take care and good night.